I used to blame politicians. I used to blame our leaders. But what we lack as a country is honesty, Fred. We as a people. We've talked about leaders being a representation of the people. Like my brother has said, step out there, Fred. Do an assessment, do a research. Ask Kenyans who voted what was their motivation for voting for that person. There are three considerations. One is the money, two is the party, party and party leader, three is the tribe. Those three things are the key determinants. The next question I ask myself is, Fred, where do you get the audacity or the moral standing as a person who was bribed to vote for someone, to question the character of that person when he's howling in the streets or lying to you or becoming a ghost worker? Most of these legislators are ghost workers. These people crying about the high cost of living are ghost workers. They don't go to work and they are paid. Where do you get as a person? Because as a person, I believe, and that's why I have a bit of a hesitance towards demonstrations, because when you listen to others more than you listen to yourself, then it's more about those that you listen to than yourself. I'll give you an example, Fred. You are very famous.
Am I?
You are very famous, Fred. But to go to a stage here in Kiambu and try to mobilize those borders to demonstrate the high cost of living without paying them, see if they will demonstrate. They may even chase you away and beat you as someone who is trying to destroy them, but there are voices that are heard. That's where opportunism comes in. So at the end of the day, we want to blame these politicians. And yes, they have their fair share of blame because they have a constitutional obligation. But I always say sometimes, when you bring one sheep from Mombasa, one sheep from Kisumu, one sheep from Trans Nzoia, and put them in this room, they will all be sheep. That's why I talked about when we are talking about the police, I talked about the training that prepares them for. Politicians, there is conditioning. That conditioning includes the character development that the people subject you to. That's what converts them into that. He's talked about the lucrative nature of our politics. It's a process that starts with down there from the voter. So until, as a people, we learn to listen to ourselves more, we become a bit selfish. And that's why I talked about chapter 1 and chapter 4 of the Constitution. When you go to the ballot, chapter 1 gives you the sovereign power, but then you are going to donate that power. The purpose of you donating that power in chapter 1 is so that this person can facilitate your acquirement of and enjoyment of chapter 4. Actually, I always tell people there are only two important chapters in the Constitution. Once you understand and internalize chapter 1 and chapter 4, you vote for someone using chapter 1, surrendering that, so donating that sovereign power so that that person can deliver on chapter 4, because chapter 4 is what covers our lives. So if Kenyans understood the contents of chapter 4, then they will go to the ballot and ask themselves, can this person guarantee my right to freedom of expression? Can this person guarantee my right to quality education, health? Can this person legislate in a manner that guarantees my security, guarantees the media? That is what we miss. And Fred, until we get to a point where, as a people, we own the Constitution, we own those rights. And that's why I always say, if you don't understand chapter 4, the only right that you should be talking about is your right hand and your right leg.
And I do hope all the young people watching us are listening to this, an understanding of the law, an understanding of your responsibility as a voter. Don't come later in the day to start complaining about the quality of politicians that you yourself queued and elected.
You know, I was saying, sorry to interrupt you, I was saying, if you come to Kenya today, you will think we've never had an election. You wouldn't imagine we are not even one year after the election. People are acting like there was no election last year. God just threw, or God or He or Lucifer threw these leaders here, and nobody knows where they come from. That lack of introspection and retrospection. Fred, we have a population that blames everyone except themselves. And that is the problem that we have. But until we get to a point where we introspect and ask yourself, on your mistakes, become responsible, take responsibility. That's when we'll move forward. Okay. And that's why I was talking about history. We refer to history because we don't want to own up to our part in the wrong history that we are talking about. Okay. Because until you own up to your part in the wrong history that we have, you will never create the right future and the right history for future generations.